This is exactly what the Phillies needed. No, it is not this big ticket free agent signing. No, it is not this massive blockbuster trade calling up the next top prospect. It is simply Bryce Harper playing like Bryce Harper. There have been a ton of reactionary takes at the start of the season in which the Phillies superstar has performed slightly below his sky high standard of play. But don't panic just yet, as the Bryce Harper we know and love is back to performing like things. Whether it is shaving the head, whether it is finding his stride, whatever the case may be, Bryce Harper looks to be back for this Phillies team. And I do want to highlight the success that he is having, as well as what that means for the rest of this roster. Now, before I dive fully into the conversation, do want to make sure you guys, as always, are hitting that subscribe button. At this point in time, just 27.8% of you guys watching these videos here on Phillies Digest are subscribed to the channel. We are hitting the home stretch of the season. Phillies baseball all over the place just about every single night, and me and my guy Luke Arcane are going to be breaking things down from every single angle, so make sure you're joining the Phillies Digest family if you have not just yet. Now, as I mentioned before, it did feel like there was a pure panic for the start of the season based on Bryce Harper, and even during that circumstance, I do think it is unfair to Bryce to act like he was playing poorly. Was he the MVP candidate that we kind of know him to be? No, he was not, but he does look absolutely back on track. Now, to highlight his stats from the series overall, the 32-year-old has 8 home runs, 32 RBIs, a 379 on-base percentage there, has walked 33 times with 52 hits across his 189 at-bats there, also stolen 8 bases, which is a little bit increased, I would say, for my expectations. An OPS plus of 136, has not been caught stealing yet, and a slugging percentage of 471. Good stuff for Bryce Harper. Those are good numbers overall, but when talk about how things turned around, I'm not going to go down the Nick Sirianni pathway of shaving his head, but the numbers are pretty distinct. So to dive into what exactly that is here, do want to start off with these stats before and after shaving his head. And by the way, this coming from straight up the Major League Baseball Twitter account here, but it tweets out, add shaving your head to the list of baseball superstitions. Bryce Harper has raised his average from 237 to 275, including 6 multi-hit games during this span. So as you can see, the left side before the head shave that did occur, and on the right, now again, I don't want to acknowledge this directly to the haircut here, but it is important to note a bit of a turning point that he's hit on the season. And you can see sort of the breakdown. The hitting splits are pretty distinct, going 432, 488, and 649 following the haircut there. Also was 10 RBIs, 5 walks, 6 extra base hits, and 1 home run, in contrast to, you can see the numbers beforehand. And to dive deeper in that a little bit more on the splits here, did want to pull up this from Jeff Seversky here, who tweets out a pretty clear breakdown. I do think the hitting splits are the most telling number here. Now, the RBIs will come, the home runs will come, and I am recording this before Game 1 against the Athletics, and a late start, 10 o'clock on the East Coast here, so did want to get this one in before the game started off there. We'll be dropping this the next day, so at this point in time, you guys know what happened in that one, so who knows, he may have very well added to these totals here. But for Bryce Harper particularly, he deserves, in my eyes, even more credit than he sometimes gets. That yes, he is the superior baseball player. Yes, he is this personality, this leader that has set the standards, has set the expectations, and really the personality of this Phillies team. And the whole organization has kind of followed. Now, I've seen a lot of the critiques from like a personality standpoint of Bryce this year that I think in general, and Bryce has kind of been open about this as well, that like he's not going to, be in the best mood when he's not performing well. But from all accounts, he's been absolutely fine around the locker room with the team. And I don't think there's anything whatsoever to, hang their hats over. And to look at his numbers as a whole on the season-wide standpoint here, as I do pull these up, that you can kind of see they're fairly on par with what the standard are for his career here. Now, granted, again, this is not the MVP Bryce Harper just yet, although I'm not ruling out that we get one of these tears that continues. It does still feel like he's at the early part of one of his hot streaks, and I think that's worth noting as well, that Bryce Harper is still a streaky hitter. He's a very good streaky hitter, but he does have his ups and downs. And what I think is most admirable about Bryce, particularly as a bat in this Phillies lineup, is he is truly a complete hitter. And I do think the Phillies have lacking that overall. A guy like Trey Turner, a very great contact hitter, but we've kind of seen the power numbers really diminish this season. And that does seem to be calculated. That's been something that Rob Thomson has been direct about, defended him to the media, talked about the expectations and goals that he has set for Trey, and the power really not having much to do with that. Then there are guys like Nick Castellanos or Kyle Schwarber here. Kyle Schwarber certainly fits the bill of a pure power hitter. We're not going to see very many opportunities of, Kyle legging out a double or, I guess he does hit some, but the point being he's a bit all or nothing. And we're going to get the strikeouts there. Nick Castellanos, a streaky hitter to the fullest extent who can absolutely carry an offense for stretches when he's at his best, but there also are those streaks where he is not even touching the baseball. when looking at Bryce Harper specifically here, he can kind of do it all, that he can hit to all areas of the field here. And when he is driving the ball to the opposite field, that's when it feels like he's fully locked in. That Rob Thomson himself has pointed to that, of when I'm trying to kind of view when is this hot Bryce Harper, that's one of the telltale signs there. When he's driving it into the gaps in the opposite outfield here, that is when he's at his best. And beyond that, it is not just sitting on a pitch. There was a play, I forget even what game it was at this point, but just a little bloop single over the third baseman in a spot where the Phillies just desperately needed runs. I want to say this was the Rocky game, one of the Rockies series, but it could be wrong on this. But him just kind of having that plate approach and being capable to shorten the swing, not needing for power, not needing to drive one, and just putting bat on ball to drive in a run. That's what's so characteristic of Bryce Harper to me, that I do think he can kind of do it all in a way that is sort of becoming a lost art in baseball. Now, a couple other factors that I did want to dive into here, did want to pull up just the full Philly stats overall, and you can kind of see each member of the team. There is some good and bad here. Obviously, we do not want to see stats like JT Realmuto leading baseball and grounded into double plays. Not ideal there, although JT has seen a bit of a resurgence in recent weeks. He's not going to be the best catcher in baseball label that he clung to for so long there, but he is a guy that I think I'm starting to see the vision a bit more of. If they get him off his feet at a little bit more regular rate in regards to rest days, that maybe the hitting numbers could increase. You can see Bryce Harper right there, second place in these overall stat breakdown here. Of course, Bryson Stott, there's kind of an interesting battle. It's tough to take Edmundo Sosa out of the lineup when he is hitting left-handed pitching at the rate that he is, and that is the case, once again, recording this before Friday night's game, that Sosa back to the lineup. I mean, you can't argue with the results here. Hitting .436 against left-handed hitters, and frankly, it's felt like more than that. It feels like every time he gets to the plate that he is just putting one in play and getting on base for this Phillies team. So shout out to Sosa there. To continue down a little bit, the Trey Turner conversation, and we can kind of see him 1.2 WAR here. Certainly, I would argue the best start to Trey Turner's career or season here in Philadelphia so far in his Phillies career, but it still just leaves me a bit underwhelmed with the powers numbers specifically here. The slugging percentage, .414, it's honestly higher than I would have guessed based on what it feels like on the field there, but he's very clearly like a hit for average and hit for singles and doubles, and that is necessary to an extent, particularly in this kind of lineup. But when you also have guys like Alec Boehm in the mix here, you're not going to get the power numbers there, and I believe Boehm up to 2 home runs on the year as I searched through, and at 3 home runs on the year, so I missed one for Alec Boehm there. Shout out to him. But another guy that if you're going to have all these kind of contact hitters surrounded, there's got to be a balance here. That's why Bryce Harper is so valuable, that he can check each of these boxes. And I think the Phillies as a whole could do a better job sort of mixing those personalities at the plate up a bit there. That maybe stagger a bit where you can have the contact hitters and power hitters. And to that same ticket there, the power hitters got to deliver a little bit more, that we have not seen quite enough from quite a few of these guys. But all this is to say, just everybody relax on Bryce Harper. That it was not an ideal start to the season, but he's still that dude. That this Phillies team will go as far as Bryce Harper can take them, and based on how he's currently hitting a baseball, feels like that could be pretty far. And the last little feather in the cap that we will give to Bryce Harper is celebrating the downfall of a particular enemy here, as the Braves have returned outfield Ronald Acuna from his rehabilitation assignment and reinstated from the injured list. Their club also designated infielder Orlando Arcia for assignment there. So DFAing Arcia. Let's not forget that this is the same guy in the playoffs, letting the attaboy Harper, after he made a bit of a base running mistake, was thrown out, and then that ultimately got out. Harper hit the 2 bombs in the same game and just stared him down, jogging down the base path. So another win for Bryce Harper that he can tuck away there. AAA Arcia does have a bit of a ring to it in my mind, so we'll see how that plays out, if that sticks to the guy whatsoever. But the bottom line is we got to keep rocking with Bryce Harper, and he's showing why that is the case with these type of hot streaks there. That is the difference for this Phillies team, is he has to be that guy, and I don't think that dude that they invested all this money in, that looked at as the face of the franchise, he's still exactly the same guy right inside. So shout out to Bryce Harper for bouncing back and performing to the standard that we hope for that. Shout out to you guys for tuning in this video here. And one more time, as always, do remind you guys to make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. Once again, 72.2% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed to us here at Phillies Digest just yet. So make sure you're hitting that button, dropping a like on this video, and I'll be back to talk with you next time. Peace.